Alright everyone, we are back with Teddy's Historic Content List. This week, we are going to do the greatest list of smaller fighters to beat the bigger fighters. And the reason being, there's a fight coming up. Terrence Crawford, Canelo. The smaller man versus the bigger man. Thought it was a good time and good theme, so we'll get right into it, bud. Your list, top 10.
All right, let me start with honorable mention. You know I got to start with that. Without getting into details or specifics, I just felt a responsibility to at least mention names that, from the older, the further away era, where there was so many great fighters. You guys know that I'm very familiar with them, more familiar than some people are, but some of you guys are sharp out there. You're familiar with them too, but I made this list more of a little bit more towards the modern day, to be honest. Not that I left out anybody that shouldn't be on the list. I wouldn't do that. But I did make it more of the 10 fighters that are of the more modern era, because a lot of the ones from the older days, it was a regular thing to fight catchweight. There was a lot of catchweight fights, and there was so many of them, so that it became a regular thing. See, this fight is becoming a huge fight because a lot of people are looking at the unique part of it, that a smaller guy who started his career at 135 pounds is fighting a guy who's a solid 168 pounder now. And that's a lot of the selling point of this fight. And like I said, back in the old days, they were fighting bigger guys all the time. So I didn't get into the weeds with it, but I felt like I would really not be doing what I do. I would be doing it a disservice if I didn't even mention, at least, some of the older guys that were really tremendous fighters at fighting bigger guys. Henry Armstrong, Sam Langford, who fought from lightweight to heavyweight and beat many fighters who were bigger. And the same could be said for Mickey Walker, Harry Greb, and actually, like I said, many great fighters during the early 1900s when the catchweight fights were not unusual. So I wanted to just start it by mentioning those guys. And now I'll get right into number 10. Number 10 on the list. I figured I'd get you into a fighting mood by starting with this one. I actually made it two guys, 10 and 10A, because I wanted to really get your juices flowing. I wanted to really get your blood pressure boiling. I wanted to really get you crazy a little bit. So I'm going to start with Crawford Canelo. The fight didn't happen yet. Teddy, how could you pick a guy? He is a smaller guy. We understand that you're staying with the criterion. But how do you pick a smaller guy to win in a fight that didn't take place? I think he's going to win. Okay? So I just want to get you guys nuts, because I know I love the Mexican fans. I love all the fans. I know you're going to go nuts. You're going to really get going. So I just want to get you in the fighting spirit. So I think that Crawford's going to wind up, if I'm right, I could be wrong, but if I'm right with my pick, Crawford will wind up being on this list. The other one, and this one will really, my son is laughing already, but this one will really get you guys to go a little cuckoo. And that would be, I put him, Jake Paul and Tank Davis. Or I should say Tank Davis first, being the smaller guy, against Jake Paul. I had to put that. I just had to put that as number 10, those two fights. Okay, let's go to number 9 now and get into the nitty-gritty of this. I think it's a very interesting list. I think it's a good list. I like it. And number 9, Roy Jones, John Ruiz. It didn't get a lot of fanfare because Ruiz didn't, he didn't really get the full respect usually given a heavyweight champion. But the fact is, Roy Jones' prime weight was middleweight. He moved up from light heavyweight and took the heavyweight title from the heavyweight champion, or one of them. He was the WBA champion at the time. So I think that fits right in a perfect spot at number 9 for me. Perfect spot. Okay, now a perfect spot for number 8. Holyfield Bowl 2. Remember, Holyfield was a light heavyweight as an Olympian. Then he fought as a cruiserweight in the pros, winning, solidifying all the titles before moving up to become heavyweight champ. And when he lost the title to Riddick Bowe in their first fight, the size and the power advantage was very evident. Bowe hurt Holyfield badly in that fight, but Holyfield's special heart kept him in the fight and made it a great fight. So when Holyfield beat the bigger Bowe in the rematch, he was not only fighting a bigger man, again, but also the memory of losing and being hurt in their first match. Holyfield was really, truly, you hear me say it sometimes, but he really was the little engine that could. Okay, that's number 8. Let's get now to number 7. Number 7. Oh, I love these guys. This was a great one, I think, anyway. Duran Barkley. Remember, Duran was one of the greatest lightweight champions ever. So when he at a late age stepped up to middleweight versus a huge, big punching middleweight like Duran Barkley, it was pretty incredible. And it was a great fight. And to me, actually, it was probably the best overall performance outside of his 2 wins against Tommy Hearns that Barkley ever had. Number 7, Duran Barkley. Number 6, Pacquiao Margarito. Yes, the great Pac-Man moved up many weight classes, but when he went up to junior middleweight versus a big and strong punching a guy who could punch, a fighter like Margarito, who was a busy guy too, many thought it might be a step too far, and it was. Except it was a step too far for Margarito. Pacquiao's unmatched combination of speed and power was just too much for the bigger but outclassed Margarito. All right, that's number 6. Number 5. Joe Louis Primo Carnero has to be on this list. The great Brown Bomber was around 200 pounds, while Carnero was 270 pounds. Just the great weight disparity, obviously. But, of course, you could say a great skill and talent disparity, too. Perhaps kind of like what's going to wind up being Paul and Tank, maybe. Either way, anytime I get a chance to put Joe Louis on a list of anything great, well, I'm going to do it. Number 4. Wow, this guy was big. You remember this guy, Bud? This guy was big. David Haye, Nikolai Valuev. Valuev.
He's 7'2", I think, Valuev.
Something like that. He was the modern-day Primo Carnero. This giant was and is the biggest heavyweight champion ever. And when David Haye beat him by majority decision, he was 9 inches short, 9 inches shorter and 100 pounds lighter. That's all you need to know. Enough said. That's why
another one would be Ruslan Shagayev defeating Valuev as well. He's about the same height as David Haye.
100%. 100%, bud. Okay, that brings us to number 3. Michael Spinks, Larry Holmes. Yeah. Not only was Spinks a 6-1 underdog, but he became the first reigning light heavyweight champion to step up and win the heavyweight title The great Billy Conn had tried and failed against Joe Louis. If it wasn't enough of a task for Michael Spinks with the weight, think about this. He was doing it versus a 48-0 fighter who was trying to tie Rocky Marciano's record of 49-0. I mean, when you're the first to do something and you do it against someone that formidable, that great, you deserve to be on a list and high on that list of greats. And that's why I got Michael Spinks so high on that list of greats. All right, number 2. We're getting there. Number two. Max Baer, Primo Carnero, the original giant. He was the original giant, Primo Carnero. I mean, Baer was 209 pounds, maybe 6'2". Primo Carnero was 6'6", 267 pounds. Baer won the title versus the Ampling Alp. They also called him the Gentle Giant. He was born in Sequels, Italy, was Carnero. The sad but true film, The Harder They Fall, mirrored his life. It's one of the most famous boxing movies ever made. And at this time, it was probably the biggest size disparity ever in a title fight. And Carnero was a huge draw, primarily because of his size. I mean, he was brought over from Italy and developed into a fighter, formed into a fighter and heavyweight champion because the people who found him knew that he would be a spectacle and therefore would be a big draw. And obviously he was. He would draw the crowds. And he was the real life King Kong of the day. He was unique. All right. Number one. Wow. Jack Dempsey, Jess Willard. Yeah. The story with it is tremendous. Dempsey won the heavyweight title by knockout. This is a guy who used to ride the rails, the trains, a hobo. Nowadays they call them homeless or whatever. When people were real mean, they would just say, "Oh, they're bums," whatever. But he was what they called a hobo, and he would go from town to town to get fights, and he didn't have transportation. He didn't have money for transportation, so he would sneak a ride on the rails underneath the trains. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. A lot of the guys that did that, the hobos that did this, they died. They died terrible. They had terrible deaths that obviously nobody ever knew about because the people that owned the railroad trains, they just got, they just probably threw their body in a morgue or whatever. They didn't want any publicity about that. It was a tough life Dempsey had. And he won the heavyweight title by knockout in 3 rounds. Willard was 6'6" and weighed 245, while Dempsey was 6'1" and weighed 187 pounds. The ferocity in which Dempsey destroyed the giant Willard was what makes, for me, this number one. He knocked Willard down 7 times in the first round, breaking his jaw, puncturing his eardrum, breaking several ribs, and breaking his cheekbones, or his cheekbone. It was remarkable that Willard somehow went 3 rounds. Dempsey actually left the ring after the first, after that just ferocious beating that he gave him. He left the ring thinking the fight was over. They had to go and get him out of the crowd and bring him back to finish the fight. And the crazy thing about it, even crazier, was that Dempsey supposedly was going to collect his bet because he bet $10,000 on himself at a 10-1 odds that he would knock Willard out in the first round. And Willard was the heavyweight champ. So he got 10-1 odds. So he went to collect what he thought was his $100,000. You know, nice little bonus that he made for himself. The only problem was the fight wasn't over. And Willard went 3 more rounds and Dempsey had to get back in the ring and finish. But like I said, I think it's a good list. I really do. Dempsey and Willard, you didn't have disparities like that. That was one of the first. And it's so vivid. So destructive. And it's the heavyweight title. So I thought that belonged to number 1, but I think that all of them belong on the list. Like I said, I could go back to the 1930s, the 1920s, the 1940s, where there was more catchweight fights, but I figured this was the best way to do it. I hope the people enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed it, Bud. I'd like to know who you think, because there's always somebody that when it's over with, you say, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have left him off, but I couldn't put everyone on the list. And I always like to get your opinion. I like to hear the fans' opinions out there, and we're going to get their opinion. There's no doubt about that. They're going to let me know, but good and bad. But usually it's good, which I appreciate, and that's why we do this. But I always like to get your thoughts, because you usually have good thoughts with these lists.
Yeah, no, I loved the list. I loved hearing about the stories of Dempsey and Willard. I read a great book, Jack Dempsey in the Roaring '20s, and I remember seeing the photos of that fight. It was like, wow, how did these two guys fight? So that one stood out to me and probably should be number 1. The ones that weren't touched on that stand out to me, Usyk and Fury. We just had 2 of those
100%.
fights. Usyk, the former cruiserweight champion, obviously moving up, fighting the 6'9" Fury, the much smaller man in Usyk, being the winner twice. And another one I'll throw at you, Bud. Chris Bird versus Vitaly Klitschko. Chris Bird weighed 210 pounds. He beat Vitaly Klitschko, I think it was in the 9th round. And Klitschko was, 6'6", 6'7", 250. Those are the 2 I got that stand out to me.
Yeah, Bird was an incredible defensive fighter. He was a magician in the ring. It was incredible. That guy don't get enough fanfare, enough credit, enough thought. He really don't. And he's a good man, too. Good family man, good guy. His father trained him. His mother was involved training him. It was a real family affair, kind of like Fundora with his family involved. Real good guy. But southpaw, and he was a middleweight. I mean, he was he was a real good amateur. He was a middleweight, and then he moved up, and he moved up and won the heavyweight championship of the world, and wasn't a puncher, but he was a ghost. He was David Copperfield in there with gloves on. He'd disappear on you. He'd do disappearing acts. He'd make you miss. He'd make you pay. He'd counter you with 4, 5, 6, 7 shots. Then spin off to the side. He was pretty special.
Yeah, not the funnest style to watch, kind of like John Ruiz, but made for some stinker fights, but very effective. Former heavyweight champion of the world, just like Ruiz. So great list. I really enjoyed it, but 2 that I think right away, when I think of smaller guys beating big guys, and you nailed both of them on the list, Manny Pacquiao and the real deal, Evander Holyfield. Those 2 always have to be on the list. So I hope the viewers enjoyed it. You guys let us know. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we will be back again next week with more of Teddy's historic content.